The New York Giants have won 2 games in a row, and they're not just out of the playoff picture yet. If you want the Giants to make the playoffs, hit that thumbs up icon. Look, the more likes we get on this video, the more likely it is they're going to the playoffs. So don't be the person that jinxes it. Hit that thumbs up icon right now. Yo, what's going on, everybody? You're watching Giants Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Marshall Green. And like we said, with the Giants winning 2 games in a row versus the Commanders and the New England Patriots, the Giants are back in the playoff hunt. I know a lot of people are like, there's no way the Giants can make the playoffs. And you know what? I don't really think there's a great chance the Giants can make the playoffs. But in today's show, I am going to outline in detail the way that the Giants, the New York Giants, they currently have 4 wins, can punch their ticket to the playoffs. Don't take it from me, though. Take it from Joe Schoen, the general manager of this football team. He spoke to the media Monday morning as the Giants are on their bye week. Most general managers speak to the media on these teams are on their bye week. Joe Schoen did as such. And he opened up and said, we're not out of it yet. We are not out of it yet. He detailed that the Giants have 5 games remaining, and 4 of those games come against NFC teams. So you look at the NFC playoff picture. The Seahawks, they're holding on to that last spot in the wild card at 6-5. The Giants are only 2 wins behind them. It's kind of crazy when you think about that. Other teams that are in the hunt, you got Green Bay, the Rams, and New Orleans at 5-6. The Giants get to play Green Bay and New Orleans. Tampa Bay is just as bad, if not worse, than the Giants. Not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying there might just be a chance. First things first, though. The Giants need to handle their own business. The Giants need to stand on business. They need to control what they can control. The Giants absolutely 100% need to win 4 of the 5 remaining games to have a chance. If the Giants lose 2 games the remainder of the season, it's over. They're not making the playoffs. So they got to win 4 of the remaining 5 games. How can it happen? Well, when you come back from the bye week and you play the Green Bay Packers in Week 14 on Monday Night Football, if that does not get flexed out of there, you got to beat the Packers. You got to beat Jordan Love. The Packers have one of the worst rushing defenses in the National Football League. They're top 5 in missed tackles. That's a Saquon Barkley game right there. So let's say you beat them. Then you get to play the Saints. The Saints are a bad, bad football team. They are bad offensively. They're good defensively, no doubt about it. But I'm not scared of Derek Carr. I'm not scared of Pete Carmichael and the New Orleans Saints. That is absolutely a winnable game. Then you got to play the Philadelphia Eagles. And you know what? I decided that we can keep things realistic. We'll keep them realistic. How about we lose to the Eagles? I believe the Giants could beat the Eagles, but we'll count that one as a loss. Then you get to play the Rams. The Rams don't want to win football games. The Rams aren't a good football team. Matthew Stafford's always hurt. Probably not going to play that game. Winnable game versus the Packers. Winnable game versus the Saints. Winnable game versus the Rams. And you have a little hiccup against a top team in the NFC and the Eagles. Then you enter Week 18. Playoff shot potentially on the line versus the Philadelphia Eagles. And if the Giants win, if the Giants beat the Eagles Week 18, when the Eagles have already clinched the number 1 seed in the playoffs, they've already clinched the NFC East, they're going to rest their starters. That's what they're going to do. And maybe you could beat the second unit of the Eagles. And if you beat the Packers, you beat the Saints, you lose to the Eagles, you beat the Rams, and you beat the Eagles, the Giants would have a 35% chance to make the playoffs. And that's without any teams losing that the Giants need them to lose. So Week 13 comes around, you need to be rooting for the Dallas Cowboys to beat the Seattle Seahawks. We showed you the playoff picture just moments ago. You should be rooting for the Seahawks to lose every single week. Also, we need the Lions to beat the Saints. The Saints are ahead of us in the playoff picture. We need them to lose. Also, we need the Jets to beat the Falcons. Call me crazy. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. This can happen. But this next game, the Chiefs are 100% going to beat the Packers. And the Browns, I think, are going to beat the Rams. All of these things could happen. And if the Giants win this week, if the Giants, obviously they don't play, but all these things happen, the Giants would have a 50% chance to make the playoffs. I'll take a coin flip to make the playoffs any day of the week Tell me the Cowboys can't beat the Seahawks. Lions are better than the Saints. The Falcons stink. Chiefs are better than the Packers. And the Browns, they're better than the Rams. 50% chance if all this stuff happens. What about this? Do you want the Giants to make the playoffs? Because I get told every single week, Marshall, I'm rooting for losses. I don't want to see the Giants win. I want a higher draft pick. Why would you want to make the playoffs if you're just going to lose the first round? Because it's the ultimate goal to get to the playoffs and hopefully win a Super Bowl. What do you think? Type Y for yes, type N for no. We're back from the bye week. It's week 14. We just had everything go right for the Giants last week. And the Giants just beat the Green Bay Packers. Now we just need the Niners to beat the Seahawks. Niners are absolutely the better team than the Seattle Seahawks. You also need, though, the Las Vegas Raiders to beat the Minnesota Vikings. I think the Vikings are better than the Las Vegas Raiders, but it's in Las Vegas. Josh Dobbs is a backup quarterback for a reason. Antonio Pierce and Patrick Graham are really strong defensive-minded coaches. It's not impossible. And I promise you this, the Ravens are going to beat the Rams on week 14. If the Giants beat the Packers, the 49ers beat the Seahawks, the Raiders beat the Vikings, and then the Ravens beat the Rams, the Giants have the 61% chance to make the playoffs. Is this impossible? Is this impossible? If this happens and the Giants beat the Packers, the Giants are more likely than not to make the playoffs. Let's go to week 15. The Eagles are going to beat the Seahawks. I mean, come on. The Eagles are beating the Seahawks. And the Bengals, Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty may not be playing, but they're at least fighting for something in Cincinnati. Jamar Chase ain't going out sad. It's going to be the LSU Tiger versus the LSU Tiger with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. We're calling that the Jamar Chase Bowl because we know the Minnesota Vikings don't play defense. And then we just need Baker Mayfield to do what Baker Mayfield does. Win a game you're not supposed to win, Baker. We saw you do it last week with the Rams when you beat the Las Vegas Raiders. Can you go on the road, can you just go and beat the Packers? If you do, the Giants would have a 77% chance to make the playoffs. I know there's a lot of ifs, and there's a lot of buts, and there's a lot of wishing, but I honestly don't think that any of the games that we needed the Giants need other teams to win, are really that impossible. Don't feel strong about this one, but that's not breaking the success of the Giants. The Vikings could still win, and the Giants could maybe have a chance. We'll get to week 16, week 17, and week 18 coming up. But first, I got to tell you about our proud sponsor of today's show, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the #1 daily fantasy sports app in North America, and it's my favorite way to play daily fantasy sports. It's extremely easy. Probably the favorite thing that I like about it. All you do is create a lineup of 2 to 6 players, and you just choose more or less on their projected stat line. I've already got my lineup ready to rock and roll for this Sunday's games. I'm going with less passing yards for Desmond Ridder versus the New York Jets. I think Ridder is horrible, and we all know that Jets defense is pretty solid. Also, I'm going to go with less passing yards for Jalen Hurts versus San Francisco 49ers. I think that could be a low-scoring game, and I think that Philadelphia is going to lean on the running game a little bit and may even ask Hurts to run a little bit more than normal. Going with less on both these guys' passing yards. You could roll with my picks, or you can fade my picks. Just play Prize Picks at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Promo code CLNS. All righty. We showed you what needed to happen in week 13, week 14, week 15. Let's go to week 16. This one's going to be tough. Let's be honest. The Titans beating the Seahawks will be tough. But really the only way and the only path the Giants have to get to the playoffs is for the Seahawks to start stacking losses. Geno Smith ain't unbeatable. That could definitely happen. Mike Vrabel's a damn good coach too. What about the Lions beating the Vikings? Lions are hungry after they lost on Thanksgiving. Dan Campbell's going to come out there and eat kneecap after kneecap. Think Josh Dobbs is going to survive against a hungry Lions team? Not a chance. This last one also could be a little tough. Not impossible. I bet the spread would be Atlanta -3. That's definitely winnable. I'm going with the Colts to beat the Vikings. The Titans beat Seahawks, Lions to beat the Vikings, Colts to beat the Falcons. If all that happens, the Giants would have a 93% chance to make the playoffs. 93? It's pretty damn high. And then week 17, you just need 2 things to happen. Just 2 things to happen. The Steelers are going to beat the Seahawks. And Jordan Love might just beat the Minnesota Vikings. And if it happens, a 99% chance for the Giants to make the playoffs. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm not saying it's not going to happen. What about Week 18? If the Lions beat the Vikings, the Cardinals beat the Seahawks, and the Bears beat the Packers, that's going to happen. That's going to be tough. That might be tough too. The Giants would continue to have a 99% chance to make the playoffs. Overall, I know we said a lot of ifs and a lot of buts and a lot of gots to do and a lot of depend on and a lot of other jabronis. Teams to root against for the remainder of the season. You root against the Seahawks. You root against Josh Dobbs. You hope Jordan Love never throws another touchdown. Desmond Ridder gets benched and they go to Taylor Heineke and they lose games. And you hope the New Orleans Saints don't win a game for the remainder of the season. Root against these teams. We just mapped out a way for the Giants to get into the playoffs after starting 2-8. It's actually a 99% chance that they're going to do that, if all that stuff happens. But I'll ask you this question. What percent chance do you give the Giants to make the playoffs? What percent chance do you give the Giants to make the playoffs? My answer, I'm going to go 25%. 25% chance. 1 out of 4. 1 out of 4. It's better than nothing, which we all thought it was just 2 weeks ago. If you haven't yet, give me a follow over on Twitter @MarshallGreen_. Love you guys. We'll see you later.